Ukraine is working to conduct negotiations with Russia. Meanwhile, Ukrainian soldiers continue to advance deep inside the Kursk region, and North Korea at the same time sends young, untrained and hungry soldiers to Ukraine to die in the trenches in the Kursk region. So under what conditions Ukraine is ready to negotiate peace with Russia, and what is going on in the Kursk region, and why is Kim Jong-un ready to deploy his troops to the front line to die in the trenches? So head of the presidential office of Ukraine, Andrzej held news conference. He said that Ukraine would be ready to conduct meaningful negotiations with Russia if Vladimir Putin withdraw his forces from the territories which have been occupied by Russia since February 2022. That is the term and condition from Ukraine to conduct negotiations with Russia. Also, meanwhile, Russian dictator Vladimir Putin refused to this option. He refused to this proposal. He said that Russia would not conduct negotiations with Ukraine because Russia is not ready to any kind of compromises with Ukraine, and Russia is not ready to any kind of concessions to Ukraine. That's why Vladimir Putin is not ready to conduct negotiations with Ukraine in a good faith. Russians will not negotiate with Ukraine in a good faith. However, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky earlier has proposed his victory plan, which aims to put more pressure on Russia to force Russia to negotiate with Ukraine in good faith. So President Zelensky proposed the West to allow Ukraine to strike deep inside Russia, to provide Ukraine with additional support, and also to help Ukraine to gain initiative on the ground. However, President Biden still hesitates to allow Ukraine to strike deep inside Russia because there is an election process in the United States. So Andrzej said in his interview that Ukraine would be ready to negotiate, but only on good terms, on appropriate terms. That's why Ukraine is not ready to allow Vladimir Putin to propose any kind of ultimatum or capitulation for Ukraine. Meanwhile, President Zelensky says that negotiations with Russia could be conducted in India. Also, head of India, Narendra Modi, could put more pressure on Russia to force Kremlin to negotiate with Ukraine. President Zelensky told this information in his recent interview. He said that he has a hope that Narendra Modi, head of India, will move closer to negotiations with Ukraine and could become an intermediate in this negotiation, could put more pressure on Russia to force Kremlin to conduct these negotiations, because India still buys Russian oil. That's why India could use this as a bargaining chip to force Russia to conduct meaningful negotiations with Ukraine. Also, Zelensky expressed hope that a country with such a great political influence will become an important partner in Ukraine to help Ukraine to bring the war closer to its end. Meanwhile, President of Poland, Andrzej Duda, urged against any kind of concessions to Russia. He said that any kind of concessions to Russia will only reward Putin's aggression. President of Poland said that it would be a big mistake for Ukraine and to the West to force Ukraine to make any kind of a big concessions to Russian side, because it will only reward Putin's aggression and will undermine the international world order. Also, we have new information from NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte for the first time confirmed North Korean deployment to Ukraine. He said that 3,000 North Korean troops have been deployed to the Kursk region of Russia. And Rutte said that in the morning after the negotiations with the delegation from the South Korea. Also, Mark Rutte said that this deployment of the North Korean troops to Russia is a big threat to democracy, and it's a big threat to security in Europe and around the globe, because for the first time North Korean troops are deployed to fight war in Europe. That's why Mark Rutte urged all NATO members to increase support to Ukraine, to put more pressure to Putin and to force him to stop this war and to participate in negotiations in good faith with Ukraine. Also, recently, the armed forces of Ukraine have advanced deep inside the Kursk region despite Russia's efforts there, and despite Russia's efforts to repel this attack, Russian forces failed to repel this attack. That's why Ukrainian forces continue advancing more deep inside the Kursk region. So the Ukrainian defense forces continue their operation in the Kursk region, and Vladimir Putin has set new deadline for the Russian troops to liberate this region. They would try to liberate this region until the end of this year. However, previous deadlines were failed by the Russian troops. That's why Institute of Study of War reported about new advances of the Ukrainian troops even deep inside the Kursk region, and President Zelensky said that this operation is really important to move the war in Ukraine closer to its end, because this operation puts more pressure on Vladimir Putin to participate in meaningful negotiations and to make some concessions to Ukraine. Also, this operation proves that Vladimir Putin cannot defend, protect even his own land against the Ukrainian army. That's why his invasion of Ukraine made Russia less secure place to live in. That's why this operation has a really strong informational aim to show that show all weaknesses and fragility of Putin's regime and of the Russian dictator Vladimir Putin. Also, we have some new reports from the Wall Street Journal. Wall Street Journal reported about the quality of the North Korean troops which are deployed to the Russia's Kursk region. So according to the Wall Street Journal, Kim Jong-un deployed 20-year-old men which are unprepared, untrained, hungry, and not really prepared for the modern warfare, according to the Wall Street Journal. Also, experts suggest that it could be an attempt for Kim Jong-un just to measure the temperature of the public opinion in the North Korea. It would be a first move, and then Kim Jong-un would assess whether he can continue this deployment, whether if there would be any kind of resistance for participation in this war from his population inside the North Korea. That's why he deployed poorly trained, untrained, and hungry soldiers, 20 years soldiers, which are in the initial stages of the conscription. They have been conscripted not far time ago, and they are on the front line in Ukraine. And Wall Street Journal reports that it's significant escalation of the conflict, but it's lots of depends on the United States, and we all hope that after the general election, the next US president will respond to this escalation between North Korea and Russia, and will prevent any further deployment of North Korean troops to Russia and to Ukraine, because otherwise Ukraine would need the involvement of NATO countries, a no-fly zone, or even nuclear deterrent. That's all for today. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, and glory to Ukraine.